Well, my friends, this right here is the reason. This is why I do what I do. Movies like this. Howard J. Ford's movie Bonekeeper. Now, from time to time, I do get asked that question. Kevin, why do you always kind of focus on the lower end of the scale? Why is that where you put your heart and soul into? Why are those the movies you try to push forward and review more often than not? And this is the reason why. Every now and then you will find a director or you will find a movie that is an absolute little gem. Way back in 2015 or 2016, a movie called Never Let Go, which starred Angela Dixon in the lead. It was very much Taken but female empowered. Followed that up with a family-friendly Adventure Boys, which was like all about these two brothers that go out and do some shenanigans. Then we get The Ledge, which was a dark psychological thriller stuck on a ledge on a cliff. Human trafficking movie Escape. A bunch of girls go on holiday, they end up getting human trafficked. Dark Game, which was like another dark psychological horror game show style thing. Then we got River of Blood, which was like an Amazonian cannibal movie starring friend of the show and good friend of mine, Joseph Milson. All of that is to say that every time he brings something out, it's leveling up. It's leveling up. Budgets going up a little bit in small increments, but it doesn't really matter because he's somehow able to squeeze out every penny of whatever budget he does have. Now we have Bonekeeper, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. But first of all, my name is Kevin Halden. This is Nerdly Presents Off the Reel. This is an Off the Reel review. You can go over to the website, which is at nerdly.co.uk. It's your favourite British home for all of your news, reviews, and exclusive interviews. We like to cover everything from the big budget to the low budget to the no budget. Please do hit that like, hit that subscribe, ding that notification bell, all that good stuff below. It helps with the algorithm, I'm told. I always forget to ask. But you know what? We've been putting out a lot of content as of late, and it's really cool if that gets paid back a little bit with just a nice little like or even a share. Let people know what we do. I'm going to be talking about the plot of the movie with as few spoilers as humanly possible. Then I'll get into the cast and crew of this movie. Then I'll get into what I did and did not like about this movie. Then I will get into my Nerdly Presents Off the Reel review rating. According to the IMDb synopsis, which is always a nice little gateway into what the movie is about, 6 young friends investigate missing persons cases in a remote cave system, unaware they're being stalked by an ancient creature lurking in the depths. Now that kind of is what it's about, but it's also not really what it's about. It doesn't really give anything away, but we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that. And we kick off, we're in space, and there are meteorites coming towards the Earth, hurtling towards the Earth, going to smash and crash land, and they do, and they create this massive, big hole. We are 400,000 years ago, which is mad, and we meet this little caveman family, and they're all sitting having tea and whatnot, and the caveman dad hears a bit of noise in the darkness, so he goes to investigate, and basically, he gets got. So then we skip forward to 1976, which is a big old jump forward, and we meet Howard J. Ford. Now, he's not called Howard J. Ford in the movie, but it is our director playing the cameo role or playing the role. Is this going to be the way forward now with his movies? Is he always going to play sort of a cameo at the start and get killed? Because that seems to be what he did in River of Blood, and now we have it here. Either way, I'm there for it. Hitchcock has his thing. Howard Ford now has his thing. He's got this Super 8 camera, and he's going towards the caves, and he's kind of filming, and then when he hears this bit of noise, and then it gets him, and then we jump forward to the present day, where we meet Sarah Alexandra Marks, who is playing Olivia Wheeler, I believe. And we kind of realize that that was her granddad at the start. She's got his diary. There's been a big mystery about the whole thing. But not only that, but her mother has recently gone to investigate to try and find out where her grandfather went. So Olivia is putting together a little bit of a team. Some of her friends, some of the people that she knows and have like sort of scientific background, have cave background. They've all got their own little things that they're going to pull together. So anyway, the team all gets together and they get in the van and they're going to go to this small town where the caves are, because they believe that in this town there's a professor that will tell them exactly which cave they need to go into, because that's where they've heard about the legend of Bonekeeper. On the way, they bump into, there's a vlogger. She's like a social media vlogger called the Bitch Hiker. They get to this town and it's very much like the town from The Wicker Man, like the whole crew of people within the local pub. They're all very much local residents. Big shout out to Pat Garrett, though. Awesome to see Pat Garrett playing somewhat of a cameo in this movie. She's the landlady of the pub. I loved seeing Pat Garrett, so that was fun. We also find out here that the professor that they're looking for, Professor Harrison, is played by British royalty Jonathan Rhys-Davies. We love Jonathan Rhys-Davies. When they get to him, he's like, look, just go away. You don't want any of this. You don't want any of this. But he is able to show them some of the Super 8 footage because he found it from the start of the movie. And he shows them like a single frame of what might be down there. And then they basically go down into the caves. This is sort of psychological horror, thriller, Lovecraftian Cthulhu kind of thing. And that's where the movie really kicks in. And I'm not going to say too much more about all that, other than this is where the fun of the movie really is. So I'm going to get into the cast and crew a little bit. I've already mentioned a few of them. And I'm going to start with the likes of Sarah Alexandra Marks, who is absolutely brilliant in this film. I'm always a fan of what she's doing. Sometimes I do think she gets a little bit underutilized or a little bit sort of typecast in ways. And then, yeah, she's doing something a little bit different and brings a lot to this character because we do get a lot of sense of who she actually is. We know about her grandfather, we know about her mother. We get this little thing about how when she's starting to feel scared, her mum used to hum this tune to her, which is going to come back throughout the movie. We already know that that's the kind of thing they're going to set up for you. And with doing that, they really layer her character to an extent. And beside her, we have River of Blood co-star as well, Louis James, as Ethan, her boyfriend. And again, he's sort of like this de facto leader of the group. He's sort of pushing them forward. When people confront them, when the locals start to confront them, he's the one that sort of steps up. Although there's a couple other guys in the group you would think they might step up, he's the one that's going to do it. And doesn't really have too much fear in the way of like, look, it's all a bit fake, it's all a bit, you know, urban legendy. So until I see it face to face, I ain't going to be all that bothered by it. And then when he does get in there, well, yeah. I mean, I'd be freaking terrified. Annabelle is played by Tiffany Hannam-Daniels, who I'm also certain was in River of Blood. I haven't checked the casting or anything like that, so please don't shoot me, but I'm pretty sure I recognize her from that movie. She's really cool as well, kind of has her part to play, not as much as some of the others, but we do get a bit of good stuff out of her. Then we've got one of my favorite actresses of the moment. You know, I loved Walking Against the Rain, really big fan of that movie. Sophia, Eleni, does a lot of voice acting right now. I really like seeing her in movies. I really like seeing her apply her craft, and she's always great in things that she does. Again, not a massive great deal to do in this movie, but she's absolutely there. I've already mentioned Howard J. Ford as the grandfather, but as the mother, we have returning Angela Dixon. Always cool to see Angela Dixon. Again, like a little bit of a smaller role for her, but she gets the things done that she needs to get done. Before I get into what I did and didn't like, I would also like to shout out Howard J. Ford one more time, because the end credits start just like this. I'm going to look at my phone because I wrote this down. Written, produced, cinematography, camera operated, edited, and directed by Howard J. Ford. Is there nothing this man cannot do? Now, I know Howard's not doing all of this by himself. He does have a team of people, but it's just so great to see that, you know, he'll write it, he'll produce it, he'll direct it, he'll star in it, he'll edit it, he'll, you know, probably wrote the theme song and sang the theme song. We'll get into soundtrack and score in a second. This film just absolutely blew me away in that kind of sense. So we're going to get into what I did and didn't like. And first of all, I quickly, briefly just mentioned it, but the score, the soundtrack of this movie, I believe it was Joe Vince who did most of this, or did all of this. It is absolutely sensational. The opening of this movie, the first third of this movie, when we're kind of meeting people and we're going through all the different beats, it's just a slow, stirring sort of score that is a little bit hopeful in places, a little bit dark when they're talking about certain things, but it's really doing a lot of the heavy lifting of the scene. Dialogue's really good, and the back and forth with everyone is really good, but what you begin to notice is that there's like an extra character within this movie, and that is the score. I just thought it was absolutely superb. We then get into the cave scenes, and it starts to get a little bit darker, a little bit more sinister. We then get into the creature scenes when they're being stalked or they're being chased or things like that, and it just amps up, and it becomes a little bit more of an action type vibe. but always sort of just dark action, if you know what I mean. I love the way it's edited. I love the idea of the whole, like, we're not going to show you everything, because what I can imagine in my head is way worse than what you can show on the screen. For a big chunk of the movie, it's just tentacles coming out with spikes on, wrapping themselves around people, and just being absolutely sinister and awesome. And I believe a lot of that will be down to budget, so we have to find practical ways around that. We edit around that. We get quick cuts, but I've always been a fan of less is more, because then when you get to the tail end of the movie and you begin to show us a little bit more and we see what is actually chasing people, it's not always going to be that scary, but I've already built it up in my head, so then when I do see it, I'm like, oh my god, that's actually quite horrific. And a big part of that is down to prosthetics. I'll quickly mention the prosthetics team. I didn't catch any names for anyone, but honestly, what a job they have done. There's this scene where one of the characters, Nick, he kind of gets got early on in the movie and then he sort of returns a little bit later on. I'm not going to say too much about how he returns, but the prosthetics on this scene were absolutely brilliant. Like, genuinely scary. Something that I imagine on set didn't look all that scary and was a little bit goofy, but I thought it looked great. And again, it comes down to less is more. You haven't shown me everything early on, so when I do get a little bit of the, you know, crazy pasta, the heebie-jeebies stuff, it's absolutely going to hit me and it's going to resonate. So I was a big fan of that. When it comes to things I didn't like, there's not really a great deal. It could have been a little bit longer. We could have maybe got to the caves a bit quicker, but then have the caves bits be a little bit longer. I was really expecting, you know, they've kind of got their phones down there. They've got no signal, but they're using their phones for lights. And I was really expecting that descent moment, you know, when you get the night vision stuff. It would have been silly in this movie and pretty much just copying the descent. But, you know, copying is the highest form of flattery, so I wouldn't have minded that. So yeah, I don't really have too many negatives. Just like, I kind of just thought, maybe we could have got here a little bit quicker and spent a little bit more time here. Really, it's not a negative. It's just more like, if I had to nitpick something, that's maybe it. Jonathan Rhys-Davies is really cool in it. Could we had a little bit more of him? I don't know. I imagine with these types of films, he's showing up for a day, maybe 2 days. So I imagine you don't have a great deal of time with him anyway. But could he have done more? Possibly, I don't know. Another massive thing is, whatever the budget was on this, I don't know what the budget was, and I keep saying it's a lower budget film. It definitely is a lower budget, but I do feel like it had a little bit more of whatever it was. You've absolutely squeezed every single penny out of it. We have like a firefight in this movie. We have Cthulhu Gothic Giga-esque freaking creature monsters like stalking the caves. We have a huge kind of like what looked like a set piece. I don't know how they've done it. I would love to talk to Howard about how he's done a lot of this stuff, but there's this like big chamber that they go into, and it's kind of like the chamber from Aliens. I'd love to know how they did it. If it was practical, if it was VFX, if it was, because it looked stunning. It looked huge, scaping, and pretty damn scary. So I was a big fan of that as well. I guess what I'm trying to say is I just really liked Bonekeeper. I think it's doing something a little bit different in a world where a lot of things are just very much the same. And that's not to say that this movie is completely original, because we have seen stuff like this before. So we do have movies like this out there, but we're doing something very different for a low budget independent British film that I just thought, wow, you've actually done something really incredible here. River of Blood felt like a massive jump, but this feels like another big leap into a different area, of course, into a different genre, I guess. So I might as well get into my Nerdly Presents off the reel rating, and honestly, I can't give it anything less than a 5. I just think everybody is doing so well here. It had its premiere at Glasgow Fright Fest, and from what I can tell, it went gangbusters, and people seem to really love the movie there. So that's good. I'm glad it's getting all that. I thought the entire cast... Sorry, I actually took notes for this movie because I was just sitting there like, oh, we're in space. We've got meteorites. Oh, we're doing caveman stuff 400,000 years ago. Oh. So I decided to start taking notes. So yeah. So we do have the likes of Tyler Winchcombe, and we have Danny Rahim. They play the other two male members of the group. They have some gnarly scenes. I think that's why I wasn't really too keen on mentioning them, because they do have some cracking scenes. Like I say, Tyler Winchcombe plays Nick, and his character, boy, he goes through it. And Danny Rahim plays Ravi, and he again, he definitely goes through it. Then you have the bitch hiker, the hashtag bitch hiker, the vlogger, Sarah T. Cohen. She's very, very good in the movie. I already mentioned Pat Garrett and, of course, Jonathan Rhys-Davies. So they're kind of your main crux of the people. We do have some, like, army soldiers towards the end of the movie that really set things up for a Bone Keeper 2, blood. Like, if you want to do a Bone Keeper 2, I am 100 million% down for that movie. It's a 5 out of 5. I don't have many complaints. Howard J. Ford, whatever you do next, you know I'm going to watch it. You know that for sure. If you want to do a Bone Keeper 2 because you definitely set it up with a you're not going to believe this style moment, yeah. And by the way, there is a nightmare sequence in this movie, and I'm not going to say at any point of the movie where this nightmare sequence comes in, because it could be slotted in anywhere, so I don't want to do spoilers. But Jesus frickin' Christ, it is absolutely horrendous. Horrendous. And I don't mean horrendous as in like a look bad. It was just like everyone's worst nightmare come true. I'll be thinking about this movie for a few days. I definitely will. I'll most likely watch it again in like a couple of days. Anyway, I'm going to go, but Bone Keeper 5 out of 5. Please do check it out. I believe it's out on April the 4th or April the 5th on digital. You can stream it anywhere possible that is being streamed. Check the film out. Let them know what you thought of it. Hit them up on social media. Tell everyone that you thoroughly enjoyed this movie. And if you didn't enjoy the movie, shut your mouth. But yeah, if you don't agree with anything I've had to say about this film, hit me in the comments down below and we can continue the conversation down there. But be constructive. I'm not down there to be having a war with you. But remember, guys, if I don't see you through the week, I'll see you in the cinema.